The Democratic Alliance and the Multi-Party Charter Office are asking Western nations like the United States and the United Kingdom to make resources available for the deployment of independent domestic election observers ahead of the May 29 vote. The ANC has condemned the letter and has accused the DA of selling the country's sovereignty to Western powers. Newzroom Afrika spoke to the ruling party spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Mutsiri yesterday about the DA's call. This is what she had to say.
This statement by the DA is an attempt at regime change, and it is an attempt at rallying Western powers behind their agenda. We reject this. We reject it with the contempt that it deserves. The election observer mission process that gets guided by the IEC should be above board, should include all of those across the globe that are interested in covering the South African election. So this is really just a case of, a form of neocolonialism that is being perpetuated.
Let's speak now to Mr. Tselane. He's with the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa, and he is the founder. Dr. Tselane, thank you very much for your time this morning. What the DA and the multi-party are asking for, is it unusual?
It's very strange indeed that the Democratic Alliance should make a call such as the one that they have made, largely because there are quite a number of checks and balances in our system that would actually deal with the issues that they are raising. One of those you find within the Code of Conduct. And all the political parties that are participating in the electoral processes have got a responsibility to firstly to respect the authority of the Commission to manage the elections, but also to assure voters and everybody else that the Commission is doing this with impartiality, and that if there are any issues that they think that are untoward that the Commission is doing, they've got legal recourse. They can go to court and raise those issues. IEC is not above the law. If they feel that there are certain things that the Commission is doing, they can take them to court to raise those issues. But to try to cast an aspersion on the integrity of the elections even before the election starts, I think it's a very serious violation of the Electoral Code of Conduct. And I think the Commission must actually begin to act against all those that are beginning to raise aspersion about the capacity to manage the elections. Mm-hmm. But there is also another issue that is of a problem, because in the letter that one has seen or is alleged to be coming from there, they're asking for alternative tabulation system, and they're asking a foreign government to put in place mechanism to basically do vote counting separate from what the Commission is doing. Now, as you may be aware that the Electoral Commission is constituted in terms of Chapter 9 of the Constitution, and it's an independent body and would not have, and should not, nobody should actually interfere with its operations. And its powers and role are contained within Section 990 of the Constitution. And then they are threefold. Firstly, is to organize, manage the elections, ensure that those elections are free and fair, and three, to declare the results thereof within a specified period. Now, if there is any other body that is going to be doing what the Commission is doing, it is basically tantamount to interference with the role of the Commission. And I think that would actually be not only the violation of the Constitution, but violation of various instruments that are there in law.
Mm. What law governs whether these foreign countries can then interfere or not? Is there a piece of legislation internationally, right, now that this process has been triggered, that would then guide whether they have a right to oversee the elections in this here particular country or not?
There is absolutely no law that would allow or empower anybody to run the elections other than the Electoral Commission. And therefore, any attempt to try to bring any other person to come and do what the Commission is doing would actually be interference with the operations of the Commission. And I think the Commission has got to begin to be very firm. Because the more we hear this thing of people beginning to cast aspersion on the integrity of the elections before the elections come, or they are delivered, is beginning to create a certain level of uncertainty and suspicion about the capacity of the Commission to manage the elections.
You have characterized what the Democratic Alliance is doing in the multi-party charter as a violation of the election code of conduct. And so when you say it is time for the IEC to act, what sanctions are there, or what could they possibly do to stave off this kind of behavior, more so when you speak of the consequences and casting aspersions on the country's ability to run free and fair elections?
Well, there are very severe penalties that are there, but the Commission is not the one that is going to be meting out all those penalties. What the Commission has got to do is got to take all this information and refer it to the Electoral Court. And the Electoral Court can then be able to decide on the penalty that has got to be imposed on a party that has violated the provisions of the Constitution that relates to the management of the elections or the provisions within the Code of Conduct. But I think it is also important to indicate that the issue of election observation in South Africa is managed in terms of Section 84 of the Electoral Act. And it is only the Commission that has got the responsibility to accept those who are going to be observing the election. It is not the role of the government, it's not the role of the ruling party to do so. So if any person is disaffected by the decisions of the Commission, they've got the Electoral Court to go to and say the Commission does not want to allow certain things to happen, which are actually covered in terms of the electoral law.
What we are hearing from you, or at least what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Tselane, is that this hurts the image of South Africa. You need only think of countries maybe on the continent, and from the work that you do, perhaps you can help us, right? Because what happens when a country, when these aspersions are cast on a country's electoral system? You have in the same breath a party that speaks about attracting investment into the country. What is it that investors are looking for, more so when we speak of stability, running of free and fair elections? What are we seeing as a result in other countries that has staved off prosperity because of such aspersions that have been cast?
Obviously, that has got a possibility of bringing instability in a country. But I don't want to talk more about the economic impact. I want to talk more in terms of the electoral space, because that's the area where I'm operating. And therefore, as I've indicated, it is absolutely dangerous to be calling for foreign entities to actually interfere in the management of the electoral processes in the country. And that's why I said that I think the Commission has got to begin to be very firm and use the instruments that are there in law to begin to get the political parties that are violating the Constitution, as well as aspects of the provisions of the Electoral Act, to make sure that this does not continue. Because if it is left unattended to, then it means that the Commission will not have the capacity to implement the Code of Conduct when other political parties are also doing things that are either of the same, or if the issues are different, or at the same level as what is currently happening. So the Commission has got to, if I was part of the Commission, I would actually call the representatives of the DA, or I would urge the Commission to call representatives of the DA to come and explain themselves, because the provisions are there in law, and they've got to stick to the provisions of the law as contained within the Electoral Act as well as within the Constitution.
How many times has South Africa been running elections?
I mean, we've been running the elections basically since 1994. Even in 1994, even though we had an interim structure that was running those elections, that interim structure was still accountable to the country. Mechanisms were put in place, of course, to get some people from outside, but not any institution could actually interfere with the management of the elections. Judge Keregla is being the head of the Commission, was the final arbiter of the outcome of the results of the elections. And I think it is important that at least people must respect the track record that has been there of the management of the elections since then. And there has never really been an interference. And the elections have been free and fair. And then people must not actually raise issues that have not even happened. But if they do, by the way, there are other provisions in law, such as Section 55 of the Electoral Act, which basically govern what we refer to as objections material to the outcome of the results of an election. Any political party that is disaffected or feels that there are issues that relate to the outcome of the results of the elections, and these are material enough, as appears to be suggested in the letter that one has seen, then they've got the mechanism through which they can raise this, firstly with the commission, but if they're not happy with the commission, they can go to the electoral court. So they've got to deal with those issues at that level. But also, another thing that I just find it very strange is that they're referring to, the letter is referring to populism and all that. The Electoral Code of Conduct, again, is urging all the political parties to debate the issues. You can't say just on the basis that you don't like my views, you just label them populism, and then you want other people to come and suppress my opinions on the basis that they are populism. So whether my opinion are populism or not, let us debate, let the society debate the issues. It is not a matter that requires interference and intervention from outside to come and deal with my opinions. The provisions are there in law, and then the law says in the particular code of conduct, every political party has got the responsibility to debate the views and opinions of others.
Tselane, thank you very much, as always, for your time and your contribution this morning. Founder and chair at the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa, Tselane.